Best housing options for retirees and seniors. You know, your house may be your biggest asset, but can your home support you and your family as you age? Today, I'll show you the top 10 best housing options involving senior retirement communities and settings, even your existing home, and how they can match your lifestyle goals and savings. Plus, some quick tips on reverse mortgages. And no, I'm not Tom Selleck or Fred Thompson, but I am a CFP professional. I think this is a great use of your time. You're watching What's Next with Money, a program with smart insights to guide your financial decisions. House is an asset. Your house may be your biggest asset, but be careful about viewing the value of your home as if it were your retirement plan. The home has costs, taxes, transactional costs like commissions, maintenance, insurance, closing costs, plus the ever-present dilemma of relocation. I think of senior housing stories of family, like my 90-plus-year-old grandfather. He owned his own business, paid for my undergraduate college, and worked until he was 90. He had an 8th grade education and actually started the fire department, the volunteer fire department in our small town in Kentucky. I was blessed to live in a ranch-style home growing up, and have only, when I owned homes, lived in this style since by choice. And of course, I lived many years in apartments, and actually delayed my entry into homeownership by building up other assets. Now, while my grandfather was recovering from surgery, we actually, I think he was in his 70s, we had him sleep on a cot in our dining room at our ranch house for a month as he recovered. Now, because where he lived, his workplace, his little restaurant bar was downstairs, he lived above that establishment. And the whole place only had one bathroom, had 2 bedrooms upstairs, 1 bathroom upstairs, not on the main level. Well, guess where the patrons had to go? This is Kentucky, folks. They used a double stall outhouse. And actually, when we left, I tore that outhouse down by hand. That was fun. Anyway, before we get onto the list of the 10 best housing options for retirees and seniors, we got to think about how can we align housing with our values and our circumstances. Think of this. Do we want to be near family? But whose family? And will the circumstances change? Will you or some of those family members move? What about their marital or family stability? Might they become dependent on you? What about in the areas of cost of living? We've got to think about taxes, one of the largest expenses in retirement. Utilities, the predictable costs of housing, and sometimes they're unpredictable, like rising HOA fees or assessments. And then there's just the affordability. Can you afford that house? You know, are you buying with cash, financing? Are you getting a mortgage? Or are you obtaining or maybe using a home equity line of credit for improvements? Are you financially supporting a non-household or in-household family or friend? Does this support obligation have an end date? And how does that affect your choices of where you're living as a senior or retiree with housing? Now, what about aging in place? A lot of people think about this, and the statistics bear that out. 78% of Americans will do this. They will age in place, according to a Redfin survey in 2024. Aging in place has its own considerations in this area. Think about maintenance, fees, taxes, transportation, healthcare, grocery pharmacy access, climate and climate change, and the impact of that on insurance and the ability to afford insurance and even obtain insurance like some people are struggling with in California and Florida. And then, of course, that relates to the potential for vulnerability for disasters in your areas. And we see longer and newer types of disasters cropping up all over the country. Now, where you think about aging in place, if you're not there yet, have you sampled that area in the off season? That was a great tip from my uncle. Go there when the crowds are not there and see if you can live there year round. Now, we've got to think about types of housing, downsizing, which for another way to put it could be right sizing, but that may not be right for everybody. Is your goal to have a small house, maybe a single family, ranch style, like I'm blessed to be in, with a bath, laundry, kitchen, bedroom, all on the ground level? And what about improving the house where you live to elder-proof it, to provide more safety and accessibility? If you're in a townhome or a condo situation, you have HOA fees, assessments for upgrades and improvements. Think about what is happening in Florida. We've had a condo collapse. There are new state requirements for inspections and improvements and reserve funds that those HOAs have to keep the building safe and habitable. But also, there are development pressures. I recently was in Miami and I saw this firsthand in a neighborhood I really like near the Biscayne Bay. And some older condo buildings, people are getting buyout offers to leave because they want to tear the condo down, not because it's unsafe, because the economics for the property and land have changed such that they want to build a bigger tower. But what happens, the outplacement, the displacement of people that live there? And they may not have a choice because the HOA, the condo board, could say, we're voting to exit, we've received these offers, and it makes sense. They may end up with a nice cash settlement, but where do they go? And all these apply to condos and, in some cases, townhomes. Then there's the notion of renting. Now, renting, we have to think of the other things we just talked about in each of the above categories. But inflation, you don't have as much control over rents increasing. You could be subject to non-renewal. Why? Again, development pressures. The building may be scraped off. It could, the rental building may go to condo conversions. When I lived in Washington, D.C., going to college, this was happening all the time. Just the economics and the interest rates caused that to happen. And the owner may decide, I'm done renting. It could be a single family home. I want to get out of this. I want to cash out. And so you may not have a choice, and they may want to sell it, scrape it, redevelop it, etc. Another form of senior housing and a way to bring income in is boarding or living with family and relatives. You may have boarders in your home, or at some point you may want to plan, I'm going to live for accessibility issues, care, I may have a disability, a chronic condition. I need to live with a family member, one of my older children. Other people think about aging in place with the idea of just senior housing with an ADU, accessory dwelling unit, usually on the ground level, could be attached or detached from the main house. A big push for housing reform on a state, local, and national basis is to encourage zoning rules to be more liberalized to allow ADUs. I'm actually thinking about adding one to the home I'm in now that might be attached and have multi-purpose. Now, you could rent out that property to others to bring in more retirement income, or you may want to move into it yourself if it's set up right, where you could live kind of independently, and maybe then a family member takes over the main part of your house. Really be careful about work out the legalities and the financing of all this. You might even need some kind of legal document to lay out the rights of you and the ADU, especially. Even with family members, things can get a little sticky. And this ties into adapting to maybe multi-generational living, where a tradition of caregiving is given in the home, even a hospice kind of situation. In fact, again, that kind of ranch living, the accessibility, if you have to build ramps or whatever. In fact, my current house has one interior step, straight off the sidewalk into the house, one step up, easily modified. So now we're going to jump into the 10 types of retirement-focused housing. The first are naturally occurring retirement communities, NORC, NOROC. Now this is, you can kind of make this up in your head. It's a neighborhood with little turnover and often older neighborhoods. The original or long-term owners have been there. Now, in two neighborhoods that I've lived in, I was a witness to the neighborhoods naturally aging. The young people move away, there are fewer school kids. And so the neighbors are still there. The cool thing is they have long-term relationships with each other and they help each other a lot. Number 2, intentional retirement communities. Now, these are affinity-based on some commonality. And by the way, for many of these that I'm going to list in the 10, I'm going to have a website tied to each one in the comment section. I'll mention it, but you'll have the links so you can go to it and actually check, do these exist in your area and what they're about. So again, number 2, intentional retirement communities, affinity-based. Now, what is the commonality? It could be sustainability, maybe a social movement or a just cause. It could be that kind of preference. Number 3, co-housing. Now, this is kind of an unusual thing. This features a large common, could be a building, it could be an area within a building where there are shared kitchen, living, game, craft, gym, media room, etc. The houses or apartments or smaller condo units could be small, and there is an organization backing this up called cohousing.org. Now, as an active real estate investor, I talk about real estate a lot on this channel. Years ago, I explored and flew to Florida to investigate some triplexes that were being built by a guy who developed college dorms. And if you can think about how college dorms are, it's the rooms, the bathrooms, and there may be common living activity areas, common food areas. But this gentleman was postulating triplexes that he was selling to outside investors for senior housing. So what did this involve? It was a building with an elevator, maybe 4 levels up, elevator and stairs. On each level, there were 3 apartments and then a common kitchen and living area, but each apartment had like a sitting room, bedroom, and their own bath, but everything else was common and shared. And this dropped the cost and the affordability for those seniors living in those little pods on each floor. Now, I thought it was a great idea. I moved on to another type of real estate investing and elected not to do it at that time, but it is an example of that co-housing. Now, if you want to see more videos like this, please hit that subscribe button, hit the like button too, and don't forget to share. Next, shared housing. Now, shared housing, this is like the Golden Girls. It's companionship, shared expenses, probably in a single family house. You really want to work with an attorney to draft a contract. What if one of the Golden Girls dies or is infirmed? Who does caregiving duties? What's the relationship with outside family members, like the offspring of one of your housemates? Next, CoHabitat. Now, this is another one. You want to work with an attorney to draft a contract. This is like cohabitating, I guess. It's like living together as married, and there may not be a personal relationship there, but it's like 2 people sharing a house as they age. There is also a group called CoHabitat Network, and we'll have a link to that. Here's another one, Ecovillages. Now, this is another kind of one of those themed areas, and this is environmentally focused living area for seniors that uses local materials, and it may be not just seniors. I think this could be probably for anybody. People may have a preference to grow their own food or part of their food, and they're very concerned about climate. They want a low energy impact. And there is a network here called the Global Ecovillage Network. And this again has an environmental and sustainable focus. Next, we have housing cooperatives or co-ops, and you've probably heard about these in sitcoms and movies. The corporation owns the building. You buy membership in the corporation for the right to live in an apartment. And there is, as most of these, the National Association of Housing Cooperatives. But they pick you. You can't just say, I want in. There's probably a board. They assess your finances. They check maybe your personality. They have to be careful about the non-discrimination laws and regulations. Apparently, this is pretty big in the Northeast. We hear that in a lot of comedy shows. And I found when I work with Walt Disney Corporation, I had a couple of friends who lived in co-ops in Southern California. Next, we have niche communities. Now, this could be a lot of different categories. Religious or faith-based. It could be sexual orientation. Another big one with big money behind it is college alumni. Actually, niche communities of seniors living near the college that they attended. Now, these come with initiation and entrance fees. And these niche communities ties into number 2 that we provided earlier called intentional retirement communities. You can see how there's kind of alignment with that. The next one is village model. It's like a neighborhood association. It's a nonprofit, but it's not really a building. It's an association that provides services in your home that you can keep living in it. And we can find more information about this at Village to Village Network. Now, what I think is great about this, and I think there's going to be more of these as a provider association, this ties into number 1, which is really doesn't have an organization attached to it, where we brought to you naturally occurring retirement communities, naturally recurring, that NOROC thing. But what I'm saying is, let's say you have a neighborhood that has turned more old in demographics. Could you imagine this village to village network or this village model provides services delivered to the homes in that area? There would be a concentration of clients in some of those neighborhoods. Now, it doesn't have to be in one of those naturally occurring retirement communities, but it delivers maybe home maintenance. They line up folks to do the yard work, tree trimming, mitigate unsafe areas or trip hazards around the home. Also do home maintenance, light bulb changes, air filter replacements, smoke detectors, some of those basic things that you might have serviced in a retirement home or, let's say, a rental unit. But this keeps things safe and vibrant, and other hands come in to help you work. And I think this could be a great growing trend. And finally, we're going to talk about number 10, the big one, continuing care retirement communities, CCRCs, continuing care retirement communities. Now, this is technically a big deal and it needs a lot of look. And I'm going to give you some guidance and places where you can get more information to how to choose this. But this is very different types of ambulatory health criteria has to be assessed if you go into one of these. You want to figure out things about how to choose a CCRC. A big one is how can you afford it, because it is costly. Where is it? Where do you want it located? You need to visit different ones to see what you like in season and off season. My mother-in-law was in one of these in northern Florida, and it was not a pleasant time sometimes in that hot summer season. It was somewhat near the coast, but it got hot there. So you want to know what's happening and be prepared for those seasonal differences. They have different buy-in options, some with big upfront entrance fees, big cash that has to be placed down in deposits. Now, based on the contract, some of this can be refundable, but that's not always the case. It really depends on the contract. You want to work with an elder law or other attorney to look at this, as well as a CFP professional, to see how it fits in the context of your financial plan. There are monthly fees, and we have to be aware of inflation because these fees can jump, especially, and this is where you need outside guidance, if development or corporate owners have financial problems or their development pressures with the facility. They may have to ask the residents to pony up more money to keep the thing afloat if it's been mismanaged or there's some problem. And fees are likely to go up. In fact, they will go up as you receive, as a resident of a CCRC, more care and services, depending on the contract you've signed, but mostly about your health needs. So you have to be prepared for a fee increase, or that might be baked into that big upfront fee that you go into. There may be other arrangements, rental agreements, a kind of a pay-as-you-go system. And CCRCs, really, they're designed to provide a continuum of care from independent living, where you might start in if you're ambulatory and in good shape, have no cognitive issues, in an apartment on that campus. Then you might move in if you need a little more help because of debilitation, physical issues, assisted living. Then maybe, the big one, moving to nursing care on that campus. And some and many are putting in memory care, specialized facilities for people that just can't walk off. Again, the financial viability of the institution is critical for CCRCs. Some CCRCs have actually sought bankruptcy protection or cut staff or reduced meals, and you got to look at reserve. Most of these are state regulated and are inspected, just like nursing homes are. So we want to see the link we're going to have to carf.org for more questions. So those are the 10 senior retirement housing options, but I've thrown in an 11th because I was recently on a cruise. And you could, in some limited cases, some people have said, I don't want to afford to get a retirement home and do all this. Why can't I just hang out on a cruise ship and have my beds made and get all my meals free? I'm not saying people do this permanently, but there are a few that take part of their years or a year or two of their life. There are these extended cruises on all kinds of ships, and retirement money that's allocated for senior housing could be allocated for this. But just make sure you have more in the bank once you step off that ship. And by the way, don't buy too much because you're going to have a big problem with luggage. So those are the big 10 of retirement-focused housing. Now, throughout this, we need to consider, again, the basics of taxes and homeownership. If you're single and you pay no capital gains tax on the sale of your home, the first $250,000 of profits, excess over your cost basis, the money you've put into the house that you paid for it and improvements, are tax-free. Now, married couples enjoy the same benefit, but they receive a $500,000 exemption. Now, our good friends at the IRS and Congress has decided not to index those amounts. So if they've been indexed for inflation, they'd be much higher. So this is part of your financial planning. There are a few restrictions with this tax break. The exemption only is allowable once every 2 years. Of course, you can add to your cost basis the cost of most improvements that you've made. In some of the other videos on the What's Next with Money channel, I talk about an easy way to list these improvements. You list the improvement, the date it was done, the cost of the improvement, and the vendor. This helps and keep receipts, and then you're safe with justifying that cost basis. Now, we have a reverse mortgage bonus that I've promised. Reverse mortgages have to be evaluated carefully. And as I said before, I am not Tom Selleck. Consider it a financial life preserver, folks. Your reverse mortgage is this. It's the last thing you reach for. They're otherwise known as HECMs, like a home equity conversion mortgage, HECM. Remember, as we said at the beginning, housing prices fluctuate and you need other forms of savings. Plan that your home equity, in whatever form you use it, is one of the last assets you use in your retirement, like a home equity line of credit or reverse mortgage. A reverse mortgage allows you to convert your home equity into monthly payments or a lump sum without having to sell your home. Or you could set up, which I favor this if you have to jump for that life preserver, a reverse mortgage line of credit, so you don't use it all at once. You use it on demand and draw down as needed, kind of like a home equity line of credit. Remember this, and I don't think you hear this from the celebrities, at least in the 30-second commercials. Reverse mortgages are expensive. Now, you don't have to pay the loan as long as you live in the house. It has to be your principal residence. You can't have any government outstanding debt like back taxes or unpaid student loans. However, you can lose your home if you stop paying homeowners insurance or property taxes. And a good thing is, reverse mortgages have been reformed over the years by Congress to make them better. There's required reverse mortgage counseling with HUD. And remember, reverse mortgages are not cheap. Here's what you got to pay. There's the cost of the mortgage itself. There are the insurance premiums you have to keep up. There are closing costs, origination fees, and servicing fees. And we'll have a link where you can get a lot more information at the Housing and Urban Development HUD site. Now, your home must be your principal residence, meaning you live there the majority of the year. You must be at least age 62. You must either own your own home outright or have a low mortgage balance. Now, if you have a mortgage balance, you must be able to pay it off when you close the reverse mortgage. And you can use your own funds or money from the reverse mortgage to pay off that existing mortgage balance. So you got to get the home free and clear of debt as you then apply this new form of kind of backwards debt of a reverse mortgage. And like we said, you've got to have no problem with your federal taxes, probably state taxes, or any other loan obligations to the government. You must have enough of your own money or agree to set aside part of the reverse mortgage funds at your loan closing to pay ongoing property charges. Now, what are these? You're still responsible for paying property taxes, insurance, as well as maintenance and repair costs. Your house must be in good condition. If your house does not meet the required property standards for a reverse mortgage, the lender will tell you on what repairs need to be made before you can get a reverse mortgage loan. Or if it's such a disrepair and you can't do that, you're not going to be able to get one. And you must receive, and this is a good thing, housing counseling from a HUD-approved reverse mortgage counseling agency to discuss your eligibility, the financial implications of the loan, and other alternatives you might not have considered. A couple other points here. There are other issues related to housing decisions as a senior. And we have these broken out in our very comprehensive video, Optimizing Your Retirement Paycheck, and we'll have a link. But remember again, we want to protect this large asset, your home, and we need to do it in a few ways. Number one, from fraud. We have to protect the home equity from mortgage schemes by making decisions based on research. Carefully investigate charges, fees, and other options. Seek a second opinion and watch out for fraudsters, because this is a store of value that they would love to get out. You've heard about title theft, for example. Next one is debt. If possible, plan to pay off your mortgage as you enter retirement, or otherwise reduce housing costs before retiring. Consider the 10 years before retirement as your debt reduction decade. And folks, check out this video. What to do when homeowners insurance is unavailable or unaffordable. And be sure to hit that subscribe and that like button. Don't forget to share. I'm Brent Neiser, looking to see you next time on What's Next with Money.